Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Anna if you're new here, and I am so sorry I took about a 3-week break. It was the holidays, it was Christmas, it was New Year's. I'm back at home, that's why the background is so different as well, and I've just been really struggling to find the time to film, especially whilst trying to make time for friends and family and just, the holidays. It's been a bit hectic. I've also been working, so anyways, Happy New Year's. I hope you're having a great start to the new year. I cannot believe that it's 2025 already. Yeah, let's just not really talk about that. Although we definitely will, because I have so many new reading goals and goals for this channel for the new year. So I wanted to do a very quick little December wrap up to let you know what books I did manage to somehow read in December. It was not my best month. I kind of hit a reading slump once again. I was just all over the place with family and friends and the holidays and work and being back home, and it's been a bit hectic. So I did not read nearly as much as I wanted to. Let's just say all of my reading goals for December, yeah, into the trash straight away. But it's fine, it was still an okay reading month. I managed to read about 6 books or so, and a couple little novellas. So let's go ahead and talk about them really quickly, and then we'll dive straight into my 2025 reading goals. I'll have all the info up on the screen, but I'm using Storygraph just to track my reading. I also use Goodreads, but I prefer the way that Storygraph just kind of like breaks everything down and divides the data up and gives me like a deeper, more interesting analysis into my reading versus Goodreads. I've also been considering tracking my reading this year in a slightly different manner, but I'm not so sure. We'll see. We'll talk about that soon. So to start off with the data, it says that I read 9 books. However, quite a few of those are novellas, so we'll discuss those. The whole month was fiction. I did have a couple nonfiction books that I wanted to get to. Did not end up happening. I think I just needed to escape into fantasy, into not nonfiction, not the real world. I think that's fair to say, especially during the last month of the year. Also, if you hear a scratching noise, I'm using my iPad to go through the data, and I put a screen protector on it that makes it feel like paper, which is amazing for drawing. I absolutely love it for drawing and for animating. However, it's not the best for just day-to-day use, and it sounds kind of weird. So let me just quickly bring it closer. All right, with format, I'm fully exposing myself here. The reason I managed to read 9-ish books or so, debatable, was because 67% of them were audiobooks. Only 33% of them were books, and they were all ebooks. I did not read a single physical book this month. And throughout the whole year, it's been a struggle. That's gonna be a goal of mine. Is it gonna be a goal of mine for 2025? I'm still debating it. I don't know how I feel about it. I do want to read more physical books, but also I am just freaking obsessed with my Kindle, guys. And it's just so much easier, specifically because I'm going to be traveling a bit this coming year and going back to school, and just, we'll see. We'll talk about that soon. Languages. Every single book I read this month was in English. We'll talk about that soon. And my average rating was 4 stars. So overall, it was a pretty good reading month. Quality-wise, I would say I enjoyed the books I read. They were all pretty decent, at least. I didn't have any book under 3 stars, which is really good. And I think I had 2 5-star books, so there's that. If you watched my one and only video of December, which was a quick little reading vlog, the majority of the books that I read were in that reading vlog, so I'm not gonna go in too deep into them. But the first book that I finished this month was We'll Prescribe You a Cat. I listened to this as an audiobook. It's by Sue Ishida. I am totally mispronouncing their name. I'm so sorry. It's a Japanese author, and the book was translated into English. I gave it a 3 stars. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite. I think with Japanese translations, I struggle to connect with the characters. I feel like there's a lack of emotional connection with them, and I think it has something to do with the translation. I would hope to one day be able to read Japanese books in Japanese and see if the translation is what's causing that issue for me. But we'll see. After that, I decided to dive a little bit into romance holiday books, holiday romances, Christmassy romance books. But none of those words make sense. I also apologize if I have a lisp in this video. I'm back on the Invisalign and they're doing their thing. So the first book that I listened to once again was Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake. This is her newest book, and I love Ashley Herring Blake. She's the author of the Bright Falls trilogy, which is a trilogy of sapphic romances following a group of friends. And I honestly love all those three books. They're so good. I've read Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which is the first one, twice by now. I would probably reread them. Like, whenever I need just like a good sapphic romance, I might just reread those books. And so I was really looking forward to Make the Season Bright. And I think I went into it with really high expectations. And usually that means that if a book isn't as good as I hoped it would be, it really like betrays those expectations and falls really short of them. But I think I almost tried to convince myself that I liked it more than I did. And thinking back on it now, I gave it 4 stars. I would say it's a 3.5 rounded up to a 4-star. It was good. I just don't really like that trope of second chance. There's a second chance trope. Basically, we follow these 2 women and one of them left the other at the altar. 5 years have passed and they're reconnecting and seeing if they can move on and forgive each other and all that. And I think my biggest issue wasn't the second chance romance. It was the miscommunication freaking trope in it, and the fact that these 2 women are meant to be in their 30s or really late 20s, approaching their early 30s, and they're acting like 19-year-olds. Like, it was just very immature in certain ways. And so, but it's Ashley Herring Blake and it's a sapphic romance, and it was super Christmassy. And so yeah, the vibes were there. There were just some little bits in it that pissed me off, because when 40% of the book basically is not able to happen if the characters just sat down and talked to each other for a couple hours, I feel like that kind of, what's the point then, you know? Moving on, after that, I finished yet another audiobook. Shocker. I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons. This is by Peter S. Spiegel. It's a short little cozy fantasy. Honestly, I can't even tell you much about this book. It was kind of forgettable, and I read it like 3 weeks ago. So we follow our main character. He's a dragon exterminator, not really by choice, more because it's just in the family business, which means he is called upon houses and castles and just like everywhere in his little town to exterminate dragons. Dragons range from tiny little creatures as small as like little mice to gigantic godly beasts, right? Except the gigantic godly beasts have not been seen in many years and are believed to be fully extinct. And so he just deals with the little ones. And we follow him as he gets called upon the castle by the princess to exterminate the castle, since the princess is wanting to woo her new prospect, her new marriage prospect, this prince from this other region who's coming, and okay. And then they end up going on this random little side quest slash adventure, which I don't really remember why anymore. The prince, the princess, and our main character, there's a little bit of a love triangle going on. The romance felt very rushed, and the world building felt very flat. Like, just not a lot of thought was put into it. Out of nowhere, we were being thrown random things. Like, yes, dragons are a thing, but we've never been told magic is a thing. And then out of nowhere, wizards exist, and now there's a bad wizard, and ooh, now they're making out, or she is being held in his dragon's mouth, and that is somewhat sexy. That was I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons. After that, I read Kiss Her Once for Me, which was yet another holiday romance. I also listened to this one. This is by Alison, I have no idea how to pronounce her last name. Alison Cochran? No idea. I ended up giving this book 4.5, maybe 5. This one I'm going to round up to a 5-star. Am I? 4-star. Should I round it down to a 4-star? When I rate books, and this is something else that I'm debating about next year, whether I should continue rating books by stars or just stop giving books star ratings, because it gets so complicated in my head for my own sake. Because I don't know how to rate books when I'm giving a book like The Starless Sea a 5-star, and then I give Kiss Her Once for Me a 5-star. However, they are not on the same level. Kiss Her Once for Me is a 5-star inside of its genre. which is contemporary romance books. And The Starless Sea is a 5-star inside of its own genre, which is magical realism fantasy. But if you had to compare them, The Starless Sea is a 5-star and Kiss Her Once For Me would be like a 3-star, but I would hate to do that to Kiss Her Once For Me. Do I make any sense here? Please let me know if you agree with me down in the comments. Anyways, Kiss Her Once For Me, a 5-star inside of the contemporary romance books. And this was once again a sapphic holiday book that I gave 5 stars to, and I'm struggling to remember what it was about. We follow these 2 women who both find themselves alone during Christmas Eve and end up spending the most beautiful, perfect 24 hours together. They get caught in a snowstorm. They basically fall in love overnight. And then something happens the next morning that separates them and they never see each other again. A whole year has passed, and no, guess what? They bump into each other again under very weird circumstances because one of them is pretending to be engaged to the other one's brother. It's this whole thing. It's a mix between fake dating trope and second chance. However, the second chance in this one makes sense. They just had a one-night thing. Something happened. Don't see each other for a whole year. There's not like that whole baggage from Make the Season Bright where they had been dating for like 15 years and then one of them leaves the other at the altar. Very different vibes. Anyways, Kiss Her Once For Me was really cute. I thought the side characters were really good. I thought it was funny. I thought it was sweet. I thought it was a good level of spicy and Christmassy, and the vibes were there. And you know what? Yeah, I ended up really, really enjoying it. So moving on, I read Hungerstone by Kat Dune. I guess it's Kat Dune. This is an arc. It's coming out at some point next year. I think in March of next year. February 18th of 2025, so please go ahead and add it to your TBR because this is such a good book. This is a rework of Carmilla. If you have read Carmilla, you will know it's the novel that originally inspired Dracula, Sapphic vampires. It's really, really good. Carmilla is honestly excellent, and I think Kat Dune, she did an excellent job at reworking the original novel. It's so... Please, I'll link my vlog down below because I feel like I expressed myself better about it, but if you want sapphic vampires, gory bits, gothic vibes set in the 1800s in beautiful rolling hills in England, and it's very much vibes, but also I think the author did a really good job at capturing female rage and a really good conversation around hunger. And yeah, just go ahead and add it to your TBR if any of that sounds good. I did really, really enjoy it. And I think she did a really good job at fleshing out the original characters from Carmilla and just giving them a bit more depth and personality and validation, reason as to why they are the way they are. They just feel a bit more 3D, and I really enjoyed that. And I read that as an ebook, so that was my first book of the month. Gosh, yeah, everything I read was audiobooks. After that, I started another romance Christmassy book, and that was Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh, which is the first book in the Catherine Walsh Christmas rom-coms. I guess that's what the series is called. I gave this one a 3.75, so I guess you would round it up to a 4-star. This one is a friends to lovers trope. We follow our main character and her best friend. They've known each other for like 10 years, but only ever hang out during their trip back home. So they're both from Ireland, live in the States, and every single year for Christmas, they travel back home from the States to Ireland and they share that flight. And so through the 10 years, they've gotten to know each other better and become best friends as they share that flight back home. And I don't think they share the flight back to the States, only the flight back home. No, it doesn't really matter. Anyways, we follow them as they're trying to make it back home for the holidays and everything goes wrong. Their flight gets delayed, there's a snowstorm, it's complete chaos. It doesn't seem like they're gonna make it back home in time. And so our main character sets it upon herself to get them back home for Christmas. She's not a very big Christmas person. Her family really isn't a big Christmas person, but her best friend and his family are huge Christmas people, like go all out kind of Christmas people. And so he has to be home for Christmas. And so she sets it upon herself to get them back home for Christmas, and they may or may not kind of fall in love during it. It was very cute. I do really enjoy Friends to Lovers, and I think this was done very, very well. If you want a very sweet, funny, easy to read a little bit, you know, lighthearted, silly, nothing bad happens, happily ever after. There's a couple steamy scenes in there. It was good. It was good. And so after that, I read Here's My First Novella, 24 pages. I said, a little ebook. It's literally marked as not a book on, what's it called? Storygraph. So I should probably not be counting it as a book. It was 24 pages, a tiny little short story. It's like a little sneak peek, a couple months after holiday romance. It's called A Mistletoe Kiss, and we follow the same characters. You know, just get a little glimpse of their next Christmas, I believe. It was sweet. I mean, it was 24 pages. It was okay. After that, I read the second book in her duology. I believe there's only 2. Maybe there's more. I think there's only 2 though. And that one is called Snowed In. In Snowed In, we follow the guy from the first book's brother. Yes. So we follow his brother, and it's time for his romance as he reconnects with an old classmate. So they grew up together. They were childhood classmates, I guess. They went to school together, high school together, never really saw each other after that. However, he attended her almost wedding, but she left the guy at the altar. And then we follow them 5 years after, I believe. Yeah, I think 5 years have passed. And we follow him and her as they reconnect over the Christmas holidays. Oh, it's fake dating. So they pretend. Can you tell that I don't really recall books that well? Especially when I read a bunch of romance books all in a row. So in this one, we follow them as she just left a guy at the altar. 5 years have passed. She needs to go back home for Christmas. He needs to go back home for Christmas too. They bump into each other at a pub and decide to pretend that they're dating to get their families to back off. She needs to pretend she's dating and happy so that her family doesn't feel like she's a failed case of romance who left her ex at an altar and just never found romance again. And it's so depressing. And oh my God, poor you. And he needs to find love so that his family stops bothering him because he's the only one in his family who isn't happily in love. And so they start fake dating. And as we know, what happens to that trope? The fake dating becomes not so fake. And it was actually really cute. I think I like this one better than the first one. I just thought their romance was spicier, cuter. They had more chemistry maybe. And I think because I was already accustomed to the other side characters and we get to see the couple from the first book. And yeah, I don't know. It was just, the vibes were immaculate. It felt very Christmassy. And I'm pretty sure I read this around, like right before Christmas or so. And so yeah, it was perfect. And then between the 20th of December or so, 18th of December, whenever I finished this book right before Christmas, and like yesterday, I only read short stories. I read 3 tiny short stories by Maggie Stiefvater that are in the same world as The Raven Cycle, and they're kind of holiday editions, holiday specials that she wrote throughout the years. Little holiday pieces, what can I say? They were really good. It's Maggie Stiefvater, it's The Raven Cycle, I love them. And then after that, I read Opal, which is a sequel to The Raven King, to the last book of The Raven Cycle, and I absolutely adored it. It's 45 pages, and it made me cry. And I highlighted the hell out of it. So I don't think there's much else to say. Those were all the books that I read in December. Okay, so 2025 is upon us. And I want to be conscious about my goals, my reading goals for 2025, but I also don't want to be too strict with them, because something that I have discovered whilst making these videos is that my monthly TBRs are pointless. I am 100% a mood reader. The only books that I actually force myself to read in a month are the book club books that I read with my friends, and I am enjoying them because I know I'm buddy reading them with someone, but I just cannot force myself to read a book if I'm not in the mood for it, and that's okay. So I might stop making my TBR videos simply because what's the point of them if they're not gonna fulfill themselves? And so I think for 2025, I have kind of looser goals. I know I want to read 100 books or so. That's my Goodreads goal. I'm not taking it too seriously though. I ended up hitting my Goodreads goal for this year, last year, 2024. Holy shit, that was last year now. We can start saying that. And it was okay. I ended up surpassing it, changing my goal. I had fun with it. I'm not worried about not being able to hit that. I love reading. I have a booktube channel. I have my Kindle. I have my audiobooks. I'll be fine. I'll hit the 100 books. However, some of the other goals I have, although I just said I'm a mood reader and I don't like to force myself to read books, I just can't. I will be forcing myself to finish series. That is one of the challenges for this year that I am determined to stick to. I will be starting a new series on this channel where I try to finish series. And there are so many of them that I'm about halfway through. There's some that I'm also so close to finishing, like the Greenbone Saga, which I'm 30% through the last book, and I've been about 30% through the last book for the past like 3 months. So I'm just gonna do it. January, I'm finishing the Greenbone Saga. There's just so many other books so many other series that I need to finish and that I'm excited to. And I'm excited to start that challenge. So there'll probably be little vlogs here and there throughout the year where I force myself to finish the series that I have started. And I know I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm excited. Another little series that I want to do is trying to find 5-star reads. I really want to focus on not just reading a lot of books this year, but reading quality books. I think I ended up putting myself in some reading slumps throughout the year because I was reading books that just weren't that good. And instead of just DNFing them, I was just kind of pushing myself to finish them and then not having a great time. Another goal I have, which I will continue from last year, is to continue my book club with my friends. That's more of a side thing. I will be doing a book club wrap-up video. I'm gonna try and see if my friend wants to pop in for it and we can film it together. Only if she's okay with being, on camera and then online. But I think that'd be really fun to go over all of the books that we read together this past year and then set ourselves little goals for next year or for this year. Oh my God, I'm starting to get confused already. I'm that person. I will continue to write 2024 on everything for the first 6 months of the year. So yeah, I feel like that would be fun for us to set goals for our book club. And we usually try to read about 2 books a month. And I feel like we just have so many good ones this year that we're desperate to get to. And I'll be filming little reading vlogs throughout the year. I want to read more genres outside of my comfort zone. That's another thing. I want to push myself to read more nonfiction because I did really enjoy the ones that I read last year. I want to push myself to read more horror, more mysteries maybe. Just kind of, push myself a little bit out of my comfort zone. Majority of them will be, fantasy, sci-fi, romance, but I do still want to push myself and try and read a little bit out of my comfort zone, dabble in some other genres. I think I want to keep reading more poetry because I did really enjoy the ones that I read last year. And so I think that will also be a fun goal. If I could think of more, I'll include them in my vlog that I'm filming for the first week of January. But I think those are kind of the loose goals that I have for reading wise. And the last kind of goal that I have for this channel, it's not really reading wise, but I want to incorporate more art into this channel. I've been really wanting to focus a lot more on my art, on drawing and painting. I'm learning to tattoo as well, and so I might incorporate that into the videos or into the vlogs. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing at all. Maybe in just vlogs, like little snippets of me learning to tattoo, my progress with it, and just more art. I do think I want to continue my book to canvas series. I only did 2 last year, but I just think it could be fun if I push myself to do a bit more of that. I think that's it. A lot more vlogs to come because those are really a lot easier to film than these sit-down videos. I just find more time for them. Neighbors are starting to be really loud, so I think it's time for me to end the video here. If you've made it all the way to the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are and that you have a great start to the new year.